everyone. Welcome to our monthly presentation in our series, Enhancing Wellness for Healthcare Professionals through the Engagement with the Arts. My name is Catherine Reed. I'm here in Colorado, believe it or not, even though my office looks similar to the way it does each month. It's pretty cold outside and there's snow on the ground. So we're just really thrilled to all be together today. I am an art therapist. I am the manager of the Ponzio Creative Arts Therapy Program here at Children's Hospital, Colorado, at Anschutz campus in Aurora, Colorado. I am a member of the Coral research team, and Coral is all in capital letters, and it is not connected to the ocean. You might think it would be, but instead it is an acronym for the Colorado Resilience in the Arts Lab. So we are a multidisciplinary research team that consists of myself and my program, facilitators of art, dance, and music therapy, in partnership with the University of Colorado and Dr. Mark Moss, to be specific, who is our principal investigator, as well as Lighthouse Writers Workshop, which is a really unique and well-known literary organization here in Colorado that provides services for all kinds of people to help them remember how to write and be creative through the written word. So together, those three entities create the Coral Research Team, and we are funded primarily by the National Endowment of the Arts. So we are the only current research lab funded by the National Endowment of the Arts, or the NEA, here at Anschutz campus in Colorado. Part of our charge with this incredible collaborative team that we've created that is doing all kinds of clinical trials, we're doing networking around the community. We are trying to bridge the arts and healthcare, because truly there are different languages spoken in each of these entities. So we are trying to help create a bridge between those communities and find resources and develop new partnerships, both here in Colorado and around the country. So this lecture series is one of those focus points. So we'll be here with you every month. And we are really proud to be connecting to some of the greatest minds and activators of the arts in healthcare and building that bridge with us. So on that note, I am about ready to present our speaker today. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So her name is Julia Langley. She is the faculty director of the Georgetown Lombardi Arts and Humanities program. So that's at the Georgetown University Medical Center in Washington, D.C. So I'm over here cold in Colorado. I haven't heard yet about the weather in D.C., so Julia might let us know about that too. What I think is that it's springtime and the cherry blossoms are out, so I can't wait to hear about that. So you will hear Julia present her work for about 35 minutes, and the video and audio are turned off for participants so that we can really focus on Julia's presentation. When she completes her presentation, I will be then leading a conversation with her, and it's a pretty casual conversation, but really we're inviting all of you viewers to participate. So as you listen to her present, please consider the questions you would like to ask Julia. And though you will not be able to ask her verbally, just put your questions in our question and answer section in this Zoom call, and I will be reading those to her during our discussion at the end. So everyone's part of this discussion, and we're pretty excited to get going. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter of the month, Julia Langley.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And this is really exciting. I've been looking forward to this for some time. I am not jealous that I'm here in Washington, D.C. when you're having all of that snow. We are having a beautiful cherry blossom season, although we're not getting out as much as we would like because of the conditions of the pandemic, which is what I'm here to talk about today. And thank you for giving me your time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah. So my talk for you today is called Adapting to a Virtual World, Challenges, Changes, and Surprise Success Stories in a Global Pandemic. And today what I'm really going to focus on is two of the pillars of the Arts and Humanities program. That is our care for patients and for staff members. You'll see in some of the things I show you a little bit about our education programs and our research programs, but today's talk will focus on how we've changed from being an in-hospital service to being a virtual service and what we've learned through that process. The first thing I'd like to do is show you a short video about the kind of work that we were doing before the pandemic. And so this is only a little less than 4 minutes, and it will give you a sample of how we were working in the Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center and in MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, which is the hospital associated with the university. So here we go.
Blue days, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on.
The Arts and Humanities program exists to bring music, dance, visual art, and expressive writing into the hospital for the patients and the caregivers and the staff to help everyone work through the difficulties of working with illness. Sometimes I just tell people, we'll throw anything at illness. We'll try anything. We just want you to feel better.
When we do a beading project, it's about color and pattern and focus, using the work with the hands as a tool for mindfulness and stress reduction and the enjoyment of making something. I've had patients say, I haven't done anything creative for months, and here today, look at what I've done.
This is a grim business. It's about hope, but it's also very, very serious. In many cases, it's life and death. How wonderful it is then to walk into a space that's dedicated to the very serious business of dealing with cancer and hearing the strains of a violin, or seeing a beautiful piece of art that has just been placed on the walls, or hearing somebody singing, or watching a group of people engaged in group art activities or dance. Not only the patients, but the caregivers. Not only the caregivers, but the family members. And a community, a healing community. That is what the Arts and Humanities program at Lombardi is all about.
We're working very hard to get to the time when the arts are embedded into healthcare, when young doctors and nurses naturally reach out for a musician or a visual artist or an expressive writer when they need something to help their patients feel better. And it just becomes normal to have art in the hospital.
Did you know that life has given love a guarantee to last through forever and another day? Just as time knew to move on since the beginning, and the seasons know exactly when to change. Just as all is born is new, do know what I say is true, that I'll be loving you always. Y'all look apart? Oh, wow. Totally.
have to start again. I had this problem last time. Go forward. All right, and let me just put this back on the presentation mode. Let's see. How did I do that before? Hold on one moment. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And I'm going to screen share again so that this looks correct. There, that's better. Is it? Well, we're just going to keep going this way. So what you saw in that video was, it's amazing to watch now how much we touched each other and how much we touched patients and massaged the hands and did work together. And we had wonderful projects, as you see on this slide. I also wanted to show you a photograph of, on the far left, Anthony Hyatt playing violin in a patient's room. And the patient is recording Anthony on his cell phone so he can upload the video to Facebook and share with all his friends that he had a visit from an artist. The second photo is a visual artist, Jennifer Wilkin-Pennick, who you saw in the video. And she had a great idea to not only make art with patients, so they could come up to her table in Lombardi and sit down, have a conversation, just putting pieces together very casually, but also make art for patients. So she started this program where people could come up and say what they would like to see in a card. But then she started getting a lot of people asking for like the Redskins logo or sports things, which of course she would do, but it was all quite funny and amusing. And the most important thing to know probably about the Arts and Humanities program is that our art making and the art providing that we do is not about the art. Actually, it's about creating a space where a conversation can happen. And that conversation might be about how a person is feeling that day, being in the hospital or being in the cancer center, or about their worry for a loved one, or about anything. And that's these are openings for people to have discussions. And that actually might be what we miss the most, not being in the hospital right now. But before I want to talk about that, I'll also show you this picture of the staff of MedStar Georgetown University Hospital doing yoga in the hallway of the 7th floor. And we had staff yoga 3 times a week. There were half-hour classes meant to match up with staff lunchtime. We had quite a devoted following. And as you saw in the video, we also gave the staff 5-minute stretch breaks. And I believe we're the only hospital in the United States that has dancers who regularly go onto the floors, onto the units of the hospital, and give staff 5-minute stretch breaks where they invite everyone into the room, see who's available, and then basically do a coordinated exercise together, which I like to tell people is really a short dance, because they're moving together in sync, and there's a lot of laughter and there's a lot of just wonderful moments that happen when the staff get to take a breather for themselves. And we estimate that pre-COVID, our artists, there are 15 artists and residents altogether. We're serving about 500 people a week in the hospital. So it was a very robust program. Now, once we became aware of COVID last March, we were told we had to leave the Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center, which is where our office is, and our artists could no longer come to the hospital, which obviously makes perfect sense. It's all about safety first. And so this created a number of challenges for us because it's not the way we ever planned on working. The first thing that we did is we began meeting on Zoom every Monday, the artists, and you can see some of them in the image on the far left. We'd get together and talk for an hour about what we could do, how we could change the way that we worked to help people during this incredibly stressful time. The first people, of course, that we wanted to reach out to, as you see in the second picture, were the nurses and the healthcare workers, because they were, they still are doing the most amazing work. And we want to recognize and help them with the stress and the burden of illness. And then we reached out to our community and asked them to share what they were feeling, to create art objects that we could post to our social media pages and write about and share, really just trying to find ways for people to express what they were going through in these unprecedented times. So the first thing that came out of our meetings was the idea that we should have a weekly newsletter that was an uplifting kind of newsletter, and where the artists could share the kinds of things they were doing in the hospital, but online. And so this was the brainchild of Morgan Kulesa, who's my wonderful project manager. And as you can see on the far left, our first newsletter was pretty plain. But now, 56 newsletters later, we've become a little bit more sophisticated. We can embed videos in our newsletters. We have articles. We'll go through and see a little bit more of the kinds of things we put in the newsletter. You're looking at Matt Peruka at the bottom of the middle image. He's our wonderful guitarist, and he creates music for us, as do the other musicians. We've been surprised when I was preparing for this lecture to know that we've created, I say we, but it's actually been they, more than 75 videos. And all of those can be seen on our Georgetown Lombardi YouTube page. And we've also given the videos to MedStar Health so that they can share them with their employees. And the reason they might want to do this is because many of the videos are not only music, but there's 5-minute stretch breaks, they're breathing videos, they're visual art videos or art projects that you can do. They're family-based projects. So if you have little kids at home, you can do things, and things that you might not know about, or you might not think about, but we think about because we've been doing this work in the hospital for so long. One of the biggest shocks when we started sending out our newsletter, we had a subscriber list of about 500 people who followed the Arts and Humanities program. But those people started forwarding our newsletters, and they started going all around the world. So we know, because we can track where our newsletters are being opened, that they've been seen in Canada, in the UK, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, Hong Kong, the Czech Republic, Switzerland, Japan, Belgium, Brazil, Russia, Romania, Brazil, Spain, Norway, and more. I guess we've been to some of those places twice. I'm looking at my slide, but that's okay. We've been other places too. And that's been very exciting. Once we realized that our artists could do such beautiful work that was their work. So for example, the musicians made beautiful music, the visual artists made beautiful visual art, the expressive writers produced wonderful poems. We thought, well, let's get into a little bit more personal stuff, like who are our artists and what are they about? And let's share more of our lives, because we're more than what we do at work. They're all of my artists, I'm happy to say, are the most incredible people. So I wanted to let people know more about the people who were wanting to care for them. So what you'll see on this screen is an incredible recipe from our cellist, Martha Vance, with her husband and her dog, Tilda, and her blueberry shortcake. We have a short piece on gardening from our expressive writing artist, Michelle Berberet, and her gardening pieces have been very popular. And then one of our movement artists, Carrie Monger, created a neighborhood family dance party, which you'll see was quite the production in her neighborhood. And this video has been the most popular video we've created. It's had thousands of views. And according to Carrie, her entire neighborhood is also asking her to make more and more videos, because they can get out and be socially distanced and have a good time. And it's the whole family, moms, dads, everyone are involved. So that was a wonderful surprise. We continue to ask for even greater community involvement, because we thought, well, this is a time to really show who we are as a community in Washington, D.C. So we reached out to different people who were known in the community at different times, such as Alvin Mays, who is a wonderful dancer and choreographer and educator in Washington, D.C. So he could talk about D.C. Pride, which was coming up. And then we wanted to spotlight a brilliant poet and a just wonderful person, Carrie Oler. She writes with our expressive writing teacher, Michelle Berberet, every week and more. She actually writes with her twice a week. So she's been very dedicated to our program. And she feels that it has really made a difference in her life, which includes cancer treatment. And then I wanted to give you a little taste of the fact that we do love our students at Georgetown. They're amazing. And before the pandemic, we had a lot of students who volunteered in the Cancer Center, and they didn't like being away either. So one of our students who's now a rising senior, Jalen Francis, is a pre-med student, and he was home and wanted to send us a video to share with people. So I'm just going to play it for a minute for you so you can hear Jalen.
Hello, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. My name is Jalen Francis, and I'm currently a rising junior in the college at Georgetown University. Today, I thought it would be nice to share my gifts with you on the alto saxophone with a song entitled Love by Musique Soulchild. The song encapsulates the idea of love and how we should share it. I thought that it was a good message to share, especially in these trying times with the COVID-19 pandemic. With that being said, I dedicate this song to you, the patients and staff at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
So you can see Jalen is unbelievably talented, and I will be happy to share my slides after this presentation if you want to hear more from Jalen. And I can also share of course, our YouTube page where you can see many more things. There we go.
Hello, MedStar Georgetown University.
So really, music was a very popular program when we were in the hospital. And the way that it would work is our musicians would walk around with their instruments, and they would go to patient rooms, and they would have referrals from the physicians. But mostly when they came into a room with their instrument, the patients knew why they were there and became very clear. Then we didn't have musicians in the hospital anymore, and we tried to do things like call people on the telephone and play music for them, but they had no idea why people would be calling on the telephone and trying to play music. And as you can imagine, the sound wasn't very good. But then we have this incredible partnership with the palliative medicine team at MedStar Georgetown. And they had these HIPAA enabled iPads. And for those of you who may not know, HIPAA is, of course, the healthcare regulation that makes sure that we protect patient privacy. And so you can't just reach out to a patient on, for example, on Zoom. Everything needs to be password protected. And so the palliative medicine program had people who were able to be in the hospital and use these iPads to take musicians into patient rooms. And so what you're looking at is a picture of Anthony Hyatt with his violin. And I think it's absolutely hilarious because you can see his personality just busting out of that little screen. And the runner is what the person was called from palliative. The runner would take the musician into certain patient rooms where they could have a real-time one-on-one interaction. And even though it's through Zoom like we are now, it could still be wonderfully personalized, and some very terrific interactions have come out of that. And now I believe all of our musicians, Karen Ashbrook and our hammered dulcimer, Martha Vance and her cello, and Matt Perutka and his guitar, are back pain playing for patients. And this program, I'm happy to tell you, has been recognized by MedStar Health as a best practice program. So we're very pleased about that. Another program evolution that we were able to figure out was a stretch break for patients and staff virtually. So on the left, I think maybe you can see the tiny screens, and that's where movement artist Carrie Monger is giving a live stretch break to the staff on 5 West at the hospital. We don't have any patients in these photos, although the patients come to the stretch break because we can't have any patients in the photos. But we have heard from the manager of this unit that this stretch break for the staff is their favorite time of day, and Saturday is their favorite day because Carrie takes good care of them. And because she's live and not on video, she can make the kind of changes that she might need to make depending on how people are feeling that day or who's in the class. So that's a very important part about being live as opposed to being on a video as well. She can see where people might need some assistance or some discussion. So we evolved from our newsletter and from doing these things live in the hospital to thinking, well, what if we just offered some online classes? And so we tried it out. We were already doing online classes very specifically for people who had multiple sclerosis. And this is a partnership with the Department of Neurology. You saw a little bit of it in our video. And we had been doing the Movement for MS class at a dance studio in Maryland, and we would get regularly about 8 to 12 participants, which was considered very good. And we went online with the class, we started getting 40 participants. And we said, wow. But the people with MS said, of course, it's much easier for us to do this from our homes. You know, it's very difficult for us to travel, but for you to come in and we can do this virtually. I mean, it was a revelation for us that you can't think of virtual being all bad. You know, there's this amazing opportunity opened up to us to help more people feel better. So we're very happy to have that. Continuing, we also started offering a gentle movement program, which is yin yoga, which is run by Allison Waldman, one of our movement artists. And then we continued to have events which used to be in person, such as our annual Poetry Cafe, which comes directly out of the writing workshops that Michelle Berberet runs. The artists in those workshops are then asked if they want to submit a poem to be read at the Poetry Cafe. And then if they either can or they don't have to, but afterwards we produce a book of poetry called Lombardi Voices. And now this coming up, actually this month will be our 6th annual Poetry Cafe. It will be virtual, but we even get a bigger audience for that because people don't have to come to the hospital to take part. So we kept expanding and offering more programs, more online classes. You can see Michelle Berberet's expressive writing workshop. In the Studio with Lauren is a class where people learn how to sew and to quilt. And a very popular class as well is called De-Stress with Art with the artist Jennifer Wilkin Pennick. Jennifer had a lot of followers because she's been teaching in the Arlington, Virginia area for quite some time. So when she started up these classes with the Arts and Humanities program, they almost immediately filled. And so then we opened up a second class for Jennifer. And now we're opening up a second class for Lauren, and we're going to have to open up a second class for Michelle as well, because in Michelle's class, she gives a poem prompt, and then we want the poets to read what they've written. And we have so many people who want to share that we need more time. I love to show this image because you can see that even on Zoom, people from Lauren's quilting class are able to share the progress they were making in learning to make quilts. And so the second image across the top is Lauren holding her quilt. And then there's a lovely woman who joined us and made this beautiful hearts quilt. And then there's a mother and daughter who came to the class together. And we're also seeing a lot of families come to our classes as well. And that's quite a treat because it's a way for people to be together and learn something together in a really fun environment. The incredible thing about our classes that I also want to say is, like the newsletters, we were absolutely shocked. The way that you get to our classes and sign up is on Eventbrite. So, and they're free for everyone. And so we didn't even think about the fact that people would just search free classes to find what was available. But that's what happened. And so people came to our classes, or people come to our classes from England and Germany and China and every state, because everyone's on a different timeline, or some people are sleeping, some people aren't. One of our favorite students is actually an 11-year-old boy in California who really wanted to learn how to knit. And Claire Wagner teaches our knitting class. It's called Knitting with Claire. And Nihal and his mother come to the class in California at 7 a.m. because it's offered at 10 a.m. DC time. So he takes knitting before he goes to school. And he's made some very wonderful things. In fact, he's much faster than a lot of the other knitters. So Claire has to keep on her toes to keep up with Nihal. So anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is expect the unexpected. Our community has grown so much bigger because we had these challenges, and we've met so many wonderful people who, now that they come, what also has happened is they might have started coming to Lauren's class, but then they decided they liked it and they decided they should try yoga with Allison. And then they decided that they should try making art or expressive writing. So we now have a significant number of people who come to 2 or more of our classes with the Arts and Humanities program. And so we feel really good about that. So I just want to recap what I've been talking about today about our challenges. The first one was working virtually when we all love being with people, and that's why we started doing this kind of arts action work in the first place. And working remotely is hard on all of us, but we're figuring it out. We made the changes that I've talked about a little bit. We make these newsletters, which have videos and photographs and articles and things that are serious and things that are silly because they just have to be like life. And then from the newsletters, we decided to order these, to start these classes or courses. We really feel that the successes have been, we've created these wonderful new audiences for our work. People who never had heard of us before now have heard of us. Maybe they don't know the whole story about what they do, but they like what they know. We have new supporters who come in, and I really believe that our classes are growing so fast because of the very high quality of our teachers. And so that goes back to the very high quality of our artists. And that's something that I'm very proud of at the Arts and Humanities program. Before I was the director, the initial director of the Arts and Humanities program, Nancy Morgan, some of the artists who worked for her are still working in the program. And they just have qualities over and above what I believe can be taught in a program. And they are just passionate about the work that they do. And that comes through, and that brings the students back again and again because they're devoted to these communities that are built in these classes. Again, it's something's being taught, something's being learned, but more importantly, groups of people are coming together with shared interests and enjoying their time together. And in this very difficult, isolated time, the fact that we are reducing stress and we are reducing isolation and we are giving people a place where they don't have to do anything at all. They don't have to make anything. They can just come in and laugh and watch what's happening, and that's all good too. So that's what I was saying on the online courses are combating stress and isolation and community building across the disciplines. So this is what we look like on Valentine's Day. And I want to thank you so much for your time. I think I'm coming in pretty close to the mark. 29 minutes. And I definitely want to, I don't know where the information is, leave you with information, but it's not on my slide here. So I'll get it to you. Oh, there it is. I had to click it. Well, see, as you can see, all of us are also learning technology, and I'm not the first in line. Thank you for your interest in the Georgetown Lombardi Arts and Humanities program. It will be my pleasure to take questions, and I'll stop sharing now.
Well, Julia, wow. I am just absorbing that pretty incredible journey you took us through your vast program. So the first thing I want to say is thank you. What a gift to hear about it, but not only to hear through you, to see it through your eyes and to meet some of the artists, to meet the musicians, and to really get a feel for it. So thank you. And I've got some questions already coming through. Let's see. One of the questions I am seeing repeatedly is, how is this program funded? How are you making this happen?
That's a terrific question. I probably should have just gone into that. We are very lucky, and in that we have a couple of major endowments that started the program. The way the program was originally started was a woman came from the National Institutes of Health to be the associate vice president of the Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center, and she knew, because the NIH was already doing some work with arts and health, and this is 30 years ago, she got a grant for $50,000 and hired an interior designer actually to make the clinic look better. And that was the beginning. And from there, they got a gift for Cecilia Rudman from the Fisher family to start an Arts and Humanities Fund. And then we got a major gift from the Prince family, and that guarantees us a certain income every year. And then we do a lot of fundraising, but my salary and my assistant's salary is covered. And so that's what gives us the stability. And
so Julia, I want to ask you myself, because I'm an art therapist, right? And so I'm leading a program of creative arts therapists, art, music, and dance therapists here at Children's Hospital. And we are actually trying to build a volunteer artist core, so to speak, a core of artists who can come in and perform similar to what you are doing. I'm curious, how do you recruit them? How do you find your artists?
Well, so for one thing, we don't recruit volunteer artists.
Okay.
So all of our artists are professional working artists. And there's a couple of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we want a very stable population of artists who are really dedicated, and also because we work so much together on maintaining and building what right now, I think there's so much discussion about what best practices are for the professionals, that we want to really be at the forefront of getting us embedded into the hospital in a way that we're recognized as professionals before we open up to volunteers. For me, I feel like that's a little bit of a risk.
Sure, that makes sense. Does that mean then that your artist salaries are also covered under the grants?
No, we fundraise every year for the artists' salaries. And so here's a thing that I'm hoping will be a good thing that comes out of this terrible pandemic, which is more and more it's being recognized that wellness cannot only come from a little blue pill. It comes from these interactions. And so now we can talk a little bit about the research briefly. We've done the research on movement for MS that shows quality of life. Indicators are up, stress is down, fatigue is down. We're working now on a major study funded by the National Endowment for the Arts to look at if music can help healing for people in the ICU We're doing a music study on people who have ALS and advanced lung disease to see if it can help them sleep, because sleep is the most important thing to their wellness. And we were also have just completed a study of the the visual arts courses that we run at the National Gallery of Art to show that it enhances medical students' skills of observation and communication.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So you are very busy.
I'm busy. Yeah.
But it's exciting. I'm curious about, I mean, this is my personal question, and I've got a couple questions in here that I'm going to read for sure. I'm curious how your program interacts, or even if it does, with the field of creative arts therapy. Do you have any connection to creative arts therapists? Are there creative arts therapists at Georgetown? And if so, do you work together?
So Georgetown does not have creative arts therapists. It just was, our program was not started that way, and we're the only artists in the hospital. We have artists, the musicians have certified musicians trained in, oh, Karen, you're going to have to tell me what the name is now. I know Karen Ashbrook, one of our musicians, was here. Healing and transitions.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
It's certified music practitioners, CMPs.
thank you. One of the reasons we don't have music therapists or art therapists is because of the way we work. And
Okay.
the way we work is we're in a hospital that has like 600 beds, but they try and bring people in and get them out as fast as possible. We do not work with pediatrics. It's a different story in pediatrics, but we never know if we're going to see a person for 20 minutes once, or if a couple of different musicians will be lucky enough to see that person over a couple of weeks. But generally, there's no plan that can be made. The musicians are trying to create the best sonic environment for that moment. And our musicians also, I should say, play in the ICU, in the post-anesthesia care unit. I mean, they play in the emergency department.
Wow.
And the visual artists also move around and work with very different populations. And we really are trying to focus on staff now. So I think that because of the timeline that we're working with, and the things that we're trying to achieve in our populations, that our artists are the right fit for what we do, which might not be the right fit for everyone.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, actually, that you're really matching the environment and the needs of the population with the specific folks that are really going to bring the most bang for the buck in the moment, right?
Yeah, and I would love to say that if we were able in the future to do like a therapeutic, long-term goal setting and bring in art therapy and bring in traditional, music therapy, yeah, we would be on it, absolutely. But we're just trying to climb that ladder.
Well, and I think it's so interesting because part of the work of Coral, the research team that's really hosting this lecture series, is really about building those bridges in between, right? What are the bridges in between the arts communities and the creative arts therapy communities? And then the community that really isn't connected to art at all. And how do we enliven all three of those so that we're all speaking a similar language?
Well, I agree. And I just feel like what I always tell people when I'm at conferences is there's room for everybody.
That's right.
I mean, really, there should be no competition. We are all trying to solve a problem that is so much deeper and larger than any of us, that we need everything. We
That's
need
so
a
true.
minute, we need long-term, we need at home, we need in the hospital. I mean, we can go on and on. So I'm dedicated to the practice as a whole, but I'm starting with where I feel like maybe slowly I can affect change.
Sure. Well, I'm just excited to continue our relationship now that we've met, because I think we have so much to offer each other.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know if you know this, but MedStar Georgetown has an amazing art therapy program for children.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that we just did a wonderful benchmarking process from here at Children's Hospital Colorado, and I think they were on our list. I remember the Star in DC naming them as one of the hospitals that we were in touch with.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to pull in some of these questions from our viewers. There is an anonymous attendee who wants to know about other hospitals, and are there other hospitals pursuing this kind of programming? She imagines that Georgetown would be a great program to replicate and really be kind of a pilot program to study.
Yes, there are other hospitals. I know that the hospitals at Brown University have a robust arts and humanities program. So does Harvard, so does Yale. They all focus on different things, and it's all different depending on where it's coming from. Our program is very unique in that it starts with the hospital. Well, I should say that we were started in the cancer center, as you might have seen from the video. And the change that I made is I opened us up to be for the entire MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. So we'll treat anyone, or we'll visit anyone, whether they want us or not. We're going to visit them. So different hospitals, depending on if they're run more from the university side by the physicians, they might have more of a medical education interest or something like that. So I'm trying to think of other hospitals. Oh, Cleveland Clinic, of course, has an amazing program, and so does Houston Methodist Hospital Center. So those are some to look at as well.
Awesome. All right. Let's see some other questions that we have here. Lauren Kingsland says, thank you so much for sharing our story.
Yay!
Sounds like she's on your
Lauren.
team.
I would just tell you, Lauren is one of the artists who she's the one who's been with the program the longest. She was there when Nancy Morgan, I think she was the first artist Nancy Morgan hired. And
Wow.
she is such a pro. So
Wow.
thank you, Lauren.
Absolutely. I mean, and I really believe when we're speaking in conversations like this on a national level, we're really, you and I are representing our vast teams, right? And so it's so exciting when they are able to interact as well. I am curious, there are people who want your slides. I'm curious how you feel about sharing your actual deck with their viewers.
Absolutely, not a problem. I will just send it to you.
Okay.
And
so for everyone, if you haven't looked at the chat functionality, I have put Julia's email in the chat. So if you would like to find her email or her phone number even, which is, I hope that's okay with you, Julia.
Sure.
It's right there in the chat. So you can copy it, paste it, wherever you like.
Oh, Anthony Hyatt, who is also one of my artists, says they can't see it.
Oh, interesting.
I
wonder if people cannot see my, Julia, I wonder, yeah,
No.
People are saying they can't see it. Maybe you can put that slide back up with your information, or actually it just got sent again. Can everyone see it now?
Yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Anthony.
Yes, they can. They got it. Awesome. So it looks like we have a question, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. It's a beautiful name. And I invite you, because we cannot put anyone else's voices on here, to put your question in the Q&A, and I promise I will ask it. So I'm speaking to Jia Hua Zheng. That is my attempt at her name, or his name. What else? Well, Julia, I am really interested in the resilience work with the staff. I think the work with the patients is key and essential. I'm so glad you're studying it. But as you know, our choral program is really working to enhance resilience with staff. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, and I want to ask you what you think about one day, if we are able to secure the funding, of course, really helping us expand this work. So choral is, we are about to start our third cohort of a 12-week workshop for staff. And that is offered either in art, music, or dance therapy. And so, or writing, actually, we have a writing workshop as well. And so the first three that I mentioned are run by creative arts therapists, and we've written protocols for those 12 weeks of sequential kind of lesson plans. And then the fourth is writing, and he's not a therapist. So we're already kind of bridging that gap between the two. Julia, we're getting really exciting results. We are finding that the staff who take these workshops develop a sense of community, develop resilience on a level that they wouldn't be able to do in a one event experience. So what I'm hoping our dream one day is to really make this a multi-site study. Could you imagine something like that happening at Georgetown Medical Center?
Yes, it would be wonderful. And I think we could do it. We just have to get, the people at the top of the shop to agree to let the staff, embark on this. And the problem, as that we're having right now, is they are having trouble keeping staffed up during the pandemic.
Yes.
So once the pandemic is past, and I hope that we have many, many wonderful nurses and healthcare workers in the pipeline who want to continue doing this all important work, then yeah, we are really are looking into right now how we can best support them once this crunch is over. And I think the hospitals are as well.
Mhm.
So let's talk about it.
And really preparing and gearing up for that moment, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's been amazing, is that we've been able to do these workshops even within the pandemic, which has been really powerful, because I think there are so many medical professionals who are kind of holding on tight, to their regular workload and their regular schedule and their shifts, and just need a place to build that resilience back up, to fill themselves up so they have more to give. We're asking so much of our healthcare professionals right now.
No, I absolutely agree. And the one thing that we're having trouble with over here is that we can offer them almost anything, but what they can only do right now is go home and sleep and go back.
Yes.
So there's not even the space to take a yoga class, or, we just hear it again. Can you bring us, coffee? So we're at a level here that we're trying to just make sure that they know that they're being cared for at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid, that they're getting food and water and time to go to the bathroom. It's
really survival
hard.
mode.
And so, yeah, preparing for, the next step will be wonderful.
Yes. I so understand that survival mode. I'm going to share with you afterwards the products that we've created within these workshops. We've got some anthologies of poetry written by healthcare professionals who are taking them, artworks and writings, and we're making a video in the next cohort. So we'll definitely be keeping in touch.
I think some of the things that we did and that we would love to do again as soon as it's possible was when the musicians were able to go into the hospital, and I talked about today, they were playing for the patients, but they were also playing for the staff. And they would specifically play for certain staff members who would ask for requests, or if they would be in at the door to a patient room, the staff could hear. And I remember stories of musicians playing for a patient, and then all the doctors and the staff came over and started singing if they found out it was a birthday, or so there were all kinds of spontaneous engagements of community that are missing. Or even something like at the Lombardi, we had a group of student volunteers who would make paper cranes. And it was it's a great exercise in meditation to make a paper crane. But then we would leave them at the front of the Lombardi, and people could just take one and give it to a loved one. And so people would just say, can I take this? I'm going up to see my loved one. And they'd put it on their tray, and it would brighten up those hospital trays so much, just to have something that was colorful and handmade and textural, just different. So
it's about bringing the humanity back, isn't it?
So we miss all of those interactions. And
it really is about bringing the humanity back to the healthcare process, even in survival mode, right? Just remembering through the music, through the textures, that we're human and that we're here to take care of each other. Anthony Hyatt wrote a shout out that I want to read aloud. The National Organization for Arts and Healthcare, NOAA, is getting ready to launch a national initiative on art for clinician resilience. I didn't know this. This is news to me. Do you know this already, Julia?
I do. I know a little bit about it. Anthony's been following it more. Anthony, have they put out their materials yet? He'll write back.
Yeah, we'll see if he answers. I mean, that's pretty exciting. Coming soon. he says.
Yeah, so it will be coming soon. And then I believe there will be a national announcement because NOAA is really a wonderful organization that is working very hard to be sort of all of the people who are interested in this field and gathering all the information. Anthony's saying there'll be a website and a press release. And I believe they also have a conference that is coming up soon. So people who want to learn more about NOAA can go to their website. And it's just, if you look at National Organization for Arts in Health, and they do include all the best practices.
Yes, thank you for that, Anthony. I think the other thing that's so important, we've been talking a lot about healthcare professionals and really how to support them and how to kind of bring back a sense of self to them and community. But we also are speaking to the artists out there, right? Because I think there are so many people sitting at home, not being able to go to work and wondering, how can I help? What can I do to move through this pandemic and contribute to the community that I live in, that I serve, that I know there are healthcare professionals out there every day looking for sleep. How can I help? So this is a really, again, wonderful sense of how to bridge and how we just continue to take care of each other. Julia, what a treat to be able to talk to you today and to learn through you and with you about all of this exciting work happening out there in the communities that we're all a part of, and that we're shepherds, really, right, for the arts. So thank you for the work that you do. It's incredible. And it is, I think, helping more people than you probably even know.
Well, it's been so wonderful to get to know you, Kristen. And thank you, David. I see your picture. And Catherine.
Yes,
All of you.
absolutely. All right, Julia, we just thank you so much. I'm going to let everyone know about our next monthly lecture. It is happening on May 21st, when we will meet Susan Maximin. I hope I'm saying her name right. She'll correct me if not. Susan Maximin is the executive director of the International Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University. So we'll be talking with her next month, and it's always exciting to learn things that I didn't even know existed. Julia, thank you again. Enjoy the spring and the cherry blossoms in DC, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.